It's November 29th here in southern Ontario. So I checked in with our federal government to see if they still plan to mandate nitrogen reduction for farmers. Yes, a federal government plan to mandate that Canadian agribusiness reduce their use of nitrogen fertilizer by 30% by 2030. Well, let's take a look at what happened in Sri Lanka when they did that in 2020. And let me preface this in case you're seeing this video cold and haven't been following me. I'll be talking about the WHO and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. And both the WHO and the IMF are headed and ran by WEF members. The head of the IMF sits on the board of trustees at the WEF, etc., etc. I've covered them individually and named them and all that other business. So anyways, the WEF and the IMF and the WHO, just different branches of the same globalist agenda. So in 2020, Sri Lanka, basically half of their income came from tourism and the other half was agricultural exports. So they, following the WEF's nitrogen reduction edicts, they reduced their nitrogen production or use by, I think it was 35%. But for sure, their agricultural output collapsed by 85%. That's right, they produced 15% of what they had the previous year. No agricultural income. They couldn't even feed their own people with 15%. And it should be pointed out, they couldn't correct this situation in 1 year. They couldn't just go back to the fields the next year and back to their fertilizer use. I mean, imagine if it happened in Canada. All the prairie grain farmers went, well, they go broke the first year. How are they going to go back into business the second year? It's a partial simplification. The other half of their income was tourism, following the WHO's 2020, you remember that year, mandates. They closed their tourism. So, in 2 years, the country was broke. In 2022, it was all over. They couldn't import food, fuel, medicine, anything. The populace rioted, took over the well, it was a duly elected government, but it was basically one family and they lived in a royal palace. The ruling family managed to escape. Details unimportant. And so yeah, it was chaos and anarchy. In March of 2023, then the IMF bailed them out, the International Monetary Fund. That's what they're there for, right? Yeah, Sri Lanka had an election, and I don't know whether they voted in a left, right, or centrist party. It really doesn't matter, because when a country's indebted to the IMF has a considerable amount of sway over the government. Can tell them who to trade with, can dictate a lot. Sanctions, tariffs, basically they tell the government what to do. Sri Lanka's still in debt to the IMF. I mean, how are you ever going to get out of debt? Anything that's going to make the money, the IMF's going to say, nah, you can't do that, right? Yeah, that's what happened in Sri Lanka in just 2 years. My point? Well, we're being run by the WEF here in Canada. Trudeau, Freeland, Singh, 80% of Trudeau's cabinet ministers. Yeah, more thoughts on that at the next video.